FP&A is arguably one of the most sought after career paths within finance, and throughout this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why that is. I'm Shawn Hakimi, I work in strategic finance, and I'm going to be breaking down the 4 main reasons why FP&A might be right for you, including the way higher salary that you can make within FP&A compared to what you're able to find online. I want to preface that the salary ranges and info within this video are based around the competitive industries and companies within FP&A. What I mean by that is I'm not going to be incorporating that one finance analyst at your local donut shop into the data points, but really just taking in the overall competitive FP&A market. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's start with one of the primary reasons why people would seek FP&A over all of the other careers in finance. And that really is work-life balance. FP&A, in a field that I like to call corporate finance, is one of the few fields within finance that consistently has 40-hour work weeks across the board. It is one of the best careers, not just in finance, when it comes to how much you are paid compared to how many hours you work. Now, what this means for you is that if you're someone who enjoys your free time, spend a lot of time doing other hobbies, pursuing another business, something entrepreneurial, even YouTube, FP&A is one of those career paths within finance that kind of sits perfectly for someone with those goals in mind. Because for the most part, across most weeks, you should be out the door at around 5 to maybe max 6 p.m. The other benefit when it relates to work-life balance is if you are someone who's seeking out more money in exchange for more hours, there are a set few industries within FP&A that are known to offer 20 to if not 50% more pay in exchange for a higher workload across the board. I'll make another video going into the details on how to tell which companies have the better work-life balance versus which companies actually pay you the most within FP&A, and overall how to tell if the culture at specific companies is right for you. Now, segueing from work-life balance, my reason number 2 of why FP&A is right for you is the flexibility and job security that it offers. To start on flexibility, any company typically has an FP&A team nowadays, especially if it's a larger company. What this means for you is that if you're a huge fan of Disney, well, Disney has an FP&A team. If you are the biggest iPhone and Apple fan out there, Apple has an FP&A team. And that goes for Barstool, that goes for companies like in cryptocurrency, Coinbase, L'Oreal if you're big on makeup. There are so many, I don't want to say infinite, but thousands and thousands of companies that are out there that you're familiar with where they have at least 10 plus people FP&A teams. And so it really allows for you to kind of cater the company you go to with what your interests are. Surprisingly though, that's actually not my favorite reason why FP&A is flexible in a sense. FP&A is one of the careers that I've seen the most job postings for that are remote. Now, if you go on LinkedIn and you search for FP&A, filter the location to United States and just put remote, you'll see about 300 job postings, if not more, for no location-based FP&A jobs. This kind of gets me to my favorite point where you can be like myself, 4 years into your career, and you could have had majority of that been in the comfort of your home without having to have a 30-minute commute to your office, waking up, getting ready, getting dressed, and then on your way home while you're exhausted, sitting in traffic, maybe 40 minutes plus to get home. Instead, you just close your laptop and you will be done for the day. Pairing with that, still on reason number 2, I'm not sure why I combined the two together, but bear with me, is job security. So flexibility and job security, they kind of go hand in hand together. Not really, but we're going to act like it does. And so job security is a huge benefit of being within the career of FP&A. Now, why is that? FP&A teams typically run fairly lean. And so when layoffs come at a given time within a company, FP&A is usually one of the last areas within a business that is let go. On top of that, I know a lot of people are super concerned about AI taking over their jobs. What I'm happy to say in regards to FP&A specifically is that there's not really a concern of a robot swooping in and taking your jobs, because FP&A is a highly communication-based field. That's also why a lot of companies do not outsource too much for their FP&A teams, because they want them to be in-house and very familiar with the business, and someone that's familiar of a face enough for them to tell them what's going on. All right, now that we got job security and flexibility out the way, whichever order number 2 is in, let's go on to our number 3 reason before we get into the topic everyone's waiting for, which is salaries. But number 3, exit opportunities. If you decide you don't want to stay within FP&A after a few years, there are a number of different opportunities you can leverage your experiences into. There's a lot of relationships that you just inherently have from all of the different partners you work with. And what that means is you can jump into corporate development. You can go into investor relations, accounting. If you wanted to go into treasury, you'll typically connect with a lot of folks within those business areas. And as long as you're the kind of person who they like and see a really strong work ethic within, there's pretty good odds of you making an internal move within whatever company you're in and going into one of those fields instead. On top of that, that same principle applies to just wanting to switch to a new company. If you have built all of these relationships within FP&A, regardless of them being within finance, they could be marketing, they could be anywhere. Once they go to another company, you can reach out to them for any FP&A job postings you see within their company, and they'd be happy to refer you just based on the relationships you've built while being there with them. And look, exit opportunities, flexibility, job security, even your work-life balance, they're great. But a lot of you care about one thing. And if you're not happy about this, then there's no reason to go into this field. And that's salaries. How much money can you make within FP&A? Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that the data points that I've included are really relative to the competitive market within FP&A for compensation. One fun fact that I could point out for you is when you see a salary range online for a job posting, typically they're showing you the low end of their salary range to the midpoint. And they're not showing you this other huge gap for the midpoint to their max range. And so some of these ranges that I'm going to show you are how high the salaries within certain role titles can actually get to. So just to throw out a big number, the compensation range for a senior director within FP&A, this is someone who has 10 plus years of experience, but still you could be in your 30s, maybe approaching on 40, is $300,000 to $600,000 US dollars. And so an important point to note is that your total compensation is a combination of your base salary and a bonus. This bonus could be either at the end of the year, or it could be some sort of equity in the company, which is essentially like getting stock shares of that company that will grow over time and that you could sell. Now, I'm not going to show years of experience for each of these because it really just differs based on your performance and how quickly you kind of climb that corporate ladder. There could be someone who's 4 years into their career that is an analyst, another person that's a senior analyst, and another person that's a manager making triple of the analyst. So it just differs based on your performance. But let's start with analysts. How much can they make? The total compensation for an analyst that I'd expect is around $60,000 to $100,000. So a lot of times you can go into a finance leadership development program. Those will maybe start at $70,000. But if you are somewhere in the Bay Area, if you're somewhere at a big tech company, let's think Microsoft, Google, Apple, they can start you at around $100,000, maybe even higher than the range that I've listed here. And one thing to note with that is even though a lot of those companies are based in really high cost of living areas, you can still get into some of them in a remote position. So you can be in the middle of a potato field in Idaho and still working on a $100,000 total compensation at a larger tech company if the position is remote. Moving on, senior financial analysts, they can make around $85,000 to $150,000 a year. And I know the 150 sounds like a stretch, but there are actually roles that can go over that amount, leading into maybe even $160,000 of base salary without including the equity on top of that are fully remote. for someone who's, let's call it 4 years of experience on average. At the manager level, this is, I know I mentioned that I wasn't going to say years of experience, but on average, this would be like 5 to 7 years of experience. You can expect somewhere from $120,000 to $220,000. And moving up from there, at the senior manager level, you can expect somewhere from $150,000 all the way up to $300,000. So with directors, they're typically 9 to 12 years of experience. They can be faster or slower, as we've mentioned, but they range anywhere from $180,000 to $450,000 of total compensation. And we've already mentioned senior directors, 10 plus years of experience, 12, 15 or more. They're going to be looking at $300,000 to $600,000 within a career in FP&A. If you're curious about what CFOs make, if you are really determined on grinding that corporate career ladder and that's your goal, they can make millions per year. Point and simple. Millions, if not tens of millions per year, depending on where you're at. One of the things that I want to note with those ranges is obviously there's a huge skew between where you can lay within either the beginning point to the end point. And so I'll make another video outlining which companies have the highest earning potential and which ones have the lowest. And then on top of that, which companies can give you the highest pay for still having to work only around 40 hours per week. If you enjoyed listening to this, please leave a like. And if you want to hear more from me on all things personal finance or career, feel free to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, talk soon.